If you are physically in the airport, talk to someone. Don't sit there and just be on your phone or like trying to make calls.
Yeah.
Like speak with a person they know better than you.
Yeah.
I know I've had clients who've been in the airport and they're like, my flight got canceled. I'm going to just rebook another flight or, what are my alternative options? And I'm like, well, speak with someone because you are owed compensation.
Oh, 100%.
So it's not your fault that your flight is canceled, and there are options. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that there are those options in these moments, and they just kind of take the L. They were just like, okay, well, it's canceled. I'm gonna go home. And I've had clients who've done that where they're just like, it's canceled or I missed this and I'm just gonna go home. I'm like, fine, but you are owed. Money, yeah, you are owed some type of supplement.
Yes.
Whether it's a rescheduled flight, a credit, a refund.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, like in your instance, your flight was rescheduled for a day out. If you were physically in an airport somewhere, you may be compensated a hotel stay.
Absolutely.
Because I've had clients who've received that where they've had flights canceled days out and the airline compensated them for 2 nights at a hotel within a certain value.
Absolutely.
And then rescheduled their flight. So now you're not spending any extra money out of pocket because this isn't your fault. So
100%.
Definitely speak with an expert within the airport if you are physically there.
Hey y'all, hey. Welcome to another episode of Travel
Fly,
Sexy. I'm your co-host Natasha Wilson, owner of Travel Goddess International.
And I am your co-host, Sincerely Jasmine, owner of Boss Babes Love Brunch.
Period. So today's episode,
what
was it originally?
Okay, so episode 11 was originally supposed to be about St. Martin. We had a trip planned to St. Martin to do a few days with the St. Martin Tourism Bureau to explore the island, its resort offerings, different activities, and we were super excited to go do this experience together and deliver it to you guys. But it's now the episode is about flight cancellations.
Yeah, because American played in my face.
Yes, and Natasha was not able to make it to
St. Martin.
St.
So nevertheless, I learned a lot of game in the process, and we are going to share it with you today because it is valuable information for your traveling life, especially with the upcoming summer travels and so forth. But before we jump into that, a little gotta smell.
Yes.
Some trending travel topics for your life. Take us away, Jazz.
This one? Interesting. Because honestly, I didn't know how to receive this. So there was a young lady looking to deboard the plane, starting to make her way off the plane. She was very erratic, screaming. And ultimately, she was saying that she's getting off this plane because that person is not real.
The person in the seat
next to her
is not a real
person. And she said, if y'all want to die with it, she called it. Y'all want to die with it, you can, but I'm not. I'm getting off this plane. So she was screaming to all of the other passengers on the plane, explaining that the passenger next to her was not a real person.
And it's a full flight.
Like
every row and every seat.
Yes, I believe it was an American flight out of Dallas, Fort Worth. But yeah, she said, I'm not going, and it's not real.
So this is, because number one, this is scary AF.
It is scary.
And as a person who literally was obsessed with the Final Destination movies for a little while of my life, this immediately made me think of that.
Definitely.
Like, what do you do in that moment? If you've watched Final Destination and somebody saw what was going to happen before it happened.
It was just...
Oh, that's
at first
so tough.
I'm like, I want to say this is scary. Like, what is she seeing? And then I'm like, this lady on drugs. Because I was like, the math is not mathing. I don't know if it was like an edible and she wanted to relax for the flight.
Maybe, but it
was kicking her butt. Whatever it was in her head. And I'm happy she got off because it would have been a terrible experience in the air if she felt that way.
And the flight went on about its business. It landed where it needed to go.
Yeah.
And all is well. But
I hope she's well.
Yeah, I do. Because it also looked like she was traveling by herself.
Yeah, she was by herself. She picked
so
up her bag. She's like, I'm leaving. And then she just had a purse, so I know she checked her bag. It was a lot.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Well, yeah, I personally don't really know how I would have reacted. Like, would I have stayed on the plane or would I have gotten off?
Imagine if you were on that plane and somebody just like, it's not real. What's not real? What's happening right now?
And then she just straight up said, you will die with it. Girl, you got me shook.
I'm like,
I know.
That's a good transition too, because we're going to be talking about reschedules. So do you get off and just reschedule?
And like figure out what your options are and call them and say, this lady said what she said. Yes, what we doing here?
Can I figure this out?
Because I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, that was nuts. So.
Ultimately, I hate to say this, but I probably would have stayed on the plane.
Oh yeah,
I gotta go. I gotta go.
Especially going home or going to destination. I gotta go. Yeah, I'm gonna leave, but you can go because
your energy is
whack.
Get energy. Get that joint off this aircraft.
Take that crazy energy and whatever is kicking your brain.
But like you said, that is a perfect segue into today's main topic, which again we're going to primarily focus on flight delays, flight cancellations, pro tips to know during these instances, because the reality of it is it will happen to you.
Inevitably,
it's going to happen. So rather than, woe is me, let's get you prepared so that you can tackle it head on and adjust accordingly.
Definitely.
And in that case, they very well could have delayed that flight.
Yeah.
And like, someone could have said, well, maybe she knows something we don't know. Let's deplane and let's get this going. And at that point, you have a delay or possibly a cancellation.
Exactly.
So what do you do?
If the pilot decided to take her advice and
if the pilot said, you know what?
If it's...
That's not for me today.
Yeah.
So we'll start with delays first, because there are different tips and tricks as well as key things that you may or may not be entitled to for delays versus cancellations. So we'll jump into delays and then we'll move into cancellations as well.
Yeah, delays are much more tolerable.
Depends on how long the delay is.
Very true, very true. But I think the biggest thing with delays is to know where your plane's coming from.
Absolutely.
Me personally, I'm stalking the weather to where I'm going. I'm stalking the weather at home for those travel days, but I'm also stalking the weather for that location to see if there's any rain in or around the city or country that I'm going to. And seeing how the weather is at home to see if that could potentially cause a delay 100%, or cancellation.
100%. And I think people underestimate the notion or the ability, honestly, to see where your aircraft is coming from.
Yes.
Sometimes we're so focused on it just being where we're leaving from, but we realize that these planes are coming in and then they're going right back out. So I can use a prime example is there's the Spirit Airlines 11:28 a.m. flight that leaves Philadelphia and goes to Cancun, gets into Cancun about 1:50 and literally turns right back around to take that 3:10 departure back to Philadelphia. So I know that schedule. So if there is any issue with, if I'm on that 3:10, that's going to take me back to Philadelphia, but if the Philly flight has an issue and that's where it's coming from, then I can likely assume I'm going to have a delay.
A delay, yes.
So
unless they have an immediate fix.
Exactly. So knowing that and educating yourself in that is key.
Definitely.
And that information is always available in the airline app.
Big thing.
So that's another tip.
The app. You guys have the app. Whatever airline you're flying with, once you book that flight, download the app.
Immediately.
Straight to your phone. You'll have everything at your fingertips. You'll be you don't have to have an account with them if you're not, member with this airline or whatever. You still have accessibility to your specific trip to know if there's any delays, if the gate changes, if there are any changes made to that particular flight. You'll get those updates within the app.
Absolutely.
You don't always receive that information via email. Nope. You're not guaranteed to receive that information via text, depending on how you opt in for notifications.
Right.
But that app,
it's going to be up to date.
It's going to have the up-to-date
Absolutely. And to your point about notifications, the app will also allow you to opt in to notifications so that just the same way you get your notification that somebody DM'd you on Instagram, you'll get your notification that your gate has changed or your flight is delayed a few hours or a few minutes or something. You just want to be in the know, which will then allow you, again, to adjust your day accordingly so that it is a less stressful situation for you.
Exactly.
And it also lets you track the aircraft status as well. So like we just said, where's it coming from? Where is it going to? What's happening with it? Is it taking too long to get to the gate? Like just all those things.
Exactly.
Where you do have the power and you should feel empowered to just know what's happening so you can have some peace of mind. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And some apps are more detailed than others. Like I know if you're flying with certain airlines, they'll let you know like we're boarding right now. Like American will shoot you a notification like, hey, we're boarding.
Yeah, like your zone is boarding
like
now.
Like me, and you get to the airport right when boarding, you're like, okay, perfect. And if you know you have a later zone, they'll let you know, oh, we're boarding zone 1 right now. You got zone 3. Stop and get a coffee. You got time.
No, I refuse to not use the app. I almost think it's insanity to not use the app, guys. Like, please download the app.
Download the app.
Please. Say, like, you download the app for everything else. Download your airline app and stop playing.
And I'll be having no storage on my phone, y'all.
But I got the
airline apps. And sometimes I'll delete it. Like, you know, like I don't need Delta right now until I do need it. I'll delete it, then re-download it. But when you have a flight that's in motion, you booked it, just have it on your phone so you'll know the update.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And last point to the update and app part before we move on to the next point is if you book your flight in advance, 9 times out of 10, they're going to change some component to that flight. And it could be as small as the gate, but it also could literally be the time. I've had a flight time get changed. I booked, let's say, an 8:10 flight, and that flight just gets changed to 10:05.
Yeah.
Like, it happens. So the more in advance that you book a flight, even more important to have that app and have those notifications turned on because they do change those schedules.
Yep.
It is not set in stone until it's set in stone. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be, they'll change it to later. Sometimes they'll change it to
Sometimes
earlier.
early. Yeah, absolutely.
Based on, you know, whatever
they got going on.
Yeah, based on the plane schedule. So, just have that app.
Yeah, we've seen that happen to our clients many a times.
Oh, yeah. Where it's like, oh, this completely changed 40 minutes. It's like, yeah, well, I sent you an email letting you know that.
But if you had the app, you would have gotten into.
Literally.
So the next point to that would just be travel advisories. And I don't know how many people are familiar with travel advisories, but usually we see them very, very often at this time of the season because we are in hurricane season. So airlines will issue travel advisories, which is basically telling you in advance, this flight may or may not be a thing.
Yep.
So with that being said, if those travel advisories come out, that is your perfect opportunity to either change or even cancel, depending on how extreme it is, your itinerary. But the key part to travel advisories when they come out, it doesn't matter the type of ticket you've purchased, because the travel advisory has been issued, you are entitled to some type of compensation.
Absolutely.
So even in the basic economy class, where it says non-refundable, if a travel advisory has been issued, now you can at least get some type of credit.
Exactly.
If not a refund, depending on the extremeness of the advisory.
When your flight was doing whatever they was doing
the most,
I got a travel advisory, and I'm like, should I not go? Like, it was just like so iffy because I think a lot of flights were delaying and canceling over those few days based upon the weather and based upon a bunch of other things. But they did issue that advisory where, you know, you get that option to be like, do I want to just stay?
Right.
Or do I want to make the adjustments to maybe a later or earlier day based upon the weather? But yeah, those major advisories are important.
They are, because like you just said, it just gives you, again, empowers you before the airline wrecks up what you have going on. You can be proactive and make the changes or, again, cancellations if your itinerary just requires that in advance rather than sitting at that airport, getting all this information and feeling like the world is against you.
So frustrating. For it to happen at the airport, so frustrating.
I will give American that. Yeah. Like, it was American Airlines who I was flying with that canceled all my flights to St. Martin, y'all. Yeah, that was a whole thing. But nevertheless, I will give them the credit that they gave me advance notice. And I say advance meaning I was home. It was the day prior. And I was able to adjust accordingly. So that is, I felt lucky, honestly, that they gave me a day prior notice, but that's not always the case. So again, stay up to date on those advisories, and again, stay up to date in that app.
Definitely. This last one, you kind of put me on the airline customer service dashboard.
Yes.
So this is a tool that's accessible through the website to everyone. And it basically sources the information for every airline for you to be able to kind of go in and figure it out.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It was introduced last summer by the Department of Transportation, and it literally just lists all of our major U.S. airlines. Alaska Airlines is on there as well. And you can basically, it's a bunch of categories. So I'll use one, for example, provides meal vouchers during cancellations, right? So that'll be the category. And then literally every column is every airline.
That does so.
And it's just an X if it doesn't, or a green check if it does. And there's an example of all types of different compensation options or different, again, rights that you're entitled to that are listed on this website, and you can know what you're able to get should you have a delay or a cancellation, because it's broken up by delays and cancellations, because your rights are different depending on the instance.
Yes, I can't wait to get in that, but we'll get into that later.
It's a great tool. And again, it's there for the consumer. It's there for us to be empowered. To know. Because the reality is the airline may not tell you what your options are.
Depending on who's working.
Depending on who's working.
But definitely depending on who's working. And then in situations like this, delays, cancellations, they are being bombarded, you know? So you are... In these moments, you are likely to get a chaotic response that is not going to always be the perfect response.
It's a lot.
Yeah. But we'll get deeper into that.
I was going to say, but the more you know and the more you're prepared for those delays, the better. My other tip for delay that's not listed, but if you can snag yourself an airport lounge, oh, that just changes that delay experience times 1,000.
Little break.
Oh, geez Louise, the gratitude of being outside of the chaos that is your boarding gate.
Yes, because, it gets crazy during those times. It gets crazy during a delay.
So if you can find yourself the nearest airport lounge, and even if you don't have, like a airline credit card that particularly offers you the airport lounge, you can still go to the airport lounge of the airline that you're flying, show your boarding pass, and then ask what the day entry rate would be.
Exactly.
So then you can at least have access for the day that you're delayed or canceled, but delayed primarily. Because cancel, you want to just figure it out.
Just go home.
We go. Speaking of that, let's jump into some tips for cancellations because I'm still traumatized.
It's a bit rough. But again, I think these tips will allow you to manage your time and manage your expectations in moments like this prior to them happening.
Manage your expectations.
Yes, exactly. Because like we said, delays, cancellations, things happen inevitably. Just like these planes don't have to get us to vacation, they are machines. Yeah. And the people, like it can be anything. It could be
the lady saying it's going to kill you on the plane.
That could just throw everybody off. Cancel it.
Jesus.
I think the first tip, we're going to say this episode plenty of times, the app.
The app.
Use the app. Because if you have the app, you will know, in advance that this happened, because you might not get an email, you might not get a text message, depending on how you booked. If you book through a third party, if you book through a travel agent or a travel advisor, you have someone that's kind of middleman in the communication, you may not get an immediate response or update on what's going on.
That's a huge one. Yeah.
If you got the app, you got your confirmation code, you have your trip saved, they will let you know what's going on. So
Absolutely.
you get that cancellation notification well prior to.
I got the cancellation notification via the American Airlines app 2 hours before I got the email.
Yeah.
2 whole hours.
That's crazy.
And during the time, like, immediately when I got it, I was able to jump on it.
Exactly.
But 2 hours later,
within that
now
2
your
hours,
options are even more limited, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And again, most people are not the day prior to vacation checking email. That's the last thing on your agenda.
Like you was.
Exactly.
Like you're packing your bag.
So luckily, because again, I had that app, I was able to get it right on my phone like I would, again, my Instagram notifications that are just as important.
Just popping up, period.
So that's a huge deal. And to your point, that third party system, whether it be booking through a travel agent or just booking through Expedia, they're considered third party.
Exactly.
And if you don't enter
text notifications
or your loyalty number for that airline, you are kind of just in limbo with your record locator, and that's just it.
Exactly.
So the mother effing app.
Use the app. Like, download the app. Just download all of the airline apps.
Please.
Well, whoever you fly, just download the app. So that saves you a lot of time because it allows you your rebooking options within the app, or it'll, guide you to the website to see your options.
Correct.
And it's pretty black and white.
It is.
When it comes to the app. It's not,
yeah,
oh, how do I figure this out?
No.
They straight up tell you, this is what we can move it to, or this is what we could do.
Exactly. And it's usually a notification that's right on your homepage. So for me, with the instance with St. Martin, it was right there as soon as I opened it. We've canceled your flights. Click here to find out what your solutions are.
Exactly.
And so there was the option to cancel, or the option to be fully refunded, or the option to rebook. And then with the rebooking, it listed the next available flights.
Yep.
Now, keep in mind, the next available flight was not the next day, or not the same day that they canceled my flight. It was the following day. So I got the notification on Sunday night for my original flight that was scheduled on Monday morning, that Monday morning flight was canceled. There was nothing else that went out that day, so I was rebooked for Tuesday, which then they canceled that as well, y'all. But nevertheless, this episode ain't about me, okay?
It's about y'all.
It's about y'all not having to be me in that moment.
That was a tough moment. I feel like I took it harder than Tosh, but
no, I will say the challenge with the self-service options, and by self-service, you can do self-service in the airport at the kiosks as well as the app. But there are a couple of limitations to note just to prepare yourself again and to set your expectations. Number one, if the flight is already overbooked, because again, airlines overbook flights, y'all. It's just what they do.
That's what they do. That's their thing.
They anticipate that someone's going to miss their flight.
A few people are just going to change
their mind.
Not
going to come.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we've seen that with clients. They just don't show up. Like, oh, you know what?
Like,
I'm just not going. I just decided not to go. On a whole vacation?
It happens.
But go off.
Yeah.
So with that being said, if the flight is overbooked and you're trying to figure out why, you can still see the availability on your end when you go to the airline app, but the agent who's trying to assist you with rebooking is not seeing the availability, it's because that flight's already oversold.
Yep.
So while yes, you could go ahead and just book the flight that you're seeing, understand that they're not guaranteed to give you back your money for the flight or for the itinerary that's currently being canceled or delayed.
Exactly.
Because that's technically now going to be a new record locator, and you may have to deal with that separately. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah. Don't move too quick.
Don't move too quick.
So these moments are like, oh my God, what can I do?
Because it's canceled.
Yeah. Don't move too quick because, like Tosh said, you don't want to lose out on money.
Correct.
Or put yourself in a circumstance where you have this, now you don't have this, or you needed this and you impulsively did this. So make sure that you are working with someone, or you're reading and moving carefully enough to make sure that you're not putting yourself in a pickle to where now you're missing out on money and you're still missing out on the trip.
That part. The other cool thing to know is if there are, we'll call it zero options for rebooking you with that airline that you're flying with that day, also inquire about booking with another airline.
Yep.
because in case you don't know, a lot of these airlines are part of alliances. So there's 3 major airline alliances in the U.S., which is SkyTeam, oneworld, and Star Alliance.
Exactly.
Yes. So Star Alliance is kind of headed by United Airlines. oneworld is headed by American Airlines, and SkyTeam is headed by Delta Airlines. So what that means is there are plenty of airlines underneath those alliances.
Yes.
So if Korea Air, which I want to say is under the SkyTeam, is flying out that day and getting to where you need to go, they may have options to rebook you on that flight because it's in their alliance. So certainly ask those questions too. And don't just think that just because that particular airline doesn't have the availability that you're just kind of out of luck that day.
Yes. And before moving on to the next one, I want to say, if you are physically in the airport, talk to someone. Don't sit there and just be on your phone or like trying to make calls.
Yeah.
Like, speak with a person they know better than you.
Yeah.
I know I've had clients who've been in the airport and they're like, my flight got canceled. I'm going to just rebook another flight, or, what are my alternative options? And I'm like, well, speak with someone because you are owed compensation.
Oh, 100%.
So it's not your fault that your flight is canceled, and there are options. And I think a lot of people fail to realize that there are those options in these moments, and they just kind of take the L. They were just like, okay, well, it's canceled. I'm going to go home. And I've had clients who've done that where they're just like, it's canceled or I missed this and I'm just going to go home. I'm like, fine, but you are owed money. Yeah, you are owed some type of supplement.
Yes.
Whether it's a rescheduled flight, a credit, a refund.
Absolutely.
Sometimes, like in your instance, your flight was rescheduled for a day out. If you were physically in an airport somewhere, you may be compensated a hotel stay.
Absolutely.
Because I've had clients who've received that where they've had flights canceled days out and the airline compensated them for 2 nights at a hotel within a certain value.
Absolutely.
And then rescheduled their flight. So now you're not spending any extra money out of pocket because this isn't your fault. So 100%. Definitely speak with an expert within the airport if you are physically there.
Yeah. And I guess the next point, and what you kind of touched on just there, is knowing your rights goes the longest way in resolving or just managing delays and cancellations. So we talked a little bit earlier about the customer service dashboard website from the Department of Transportation, which literally lists your rights. You don't even have to know them. It knows them for you. But then on top of that, many airlines have their individual policies that you can take advantage of. So one you did just mention, which is, if those cancellations occur and you now need lodging because there is no flight out that day and you are physically at this airport, you can absolutely inquire about hotel vouchers and meal vouchers as well, because they've inconvenienced you. You have no way to get to where you're going.
Like, I planned on being home. I didn't plan on being in Dallas for the night, and now I gotta feed myself. Like, I planned on eating when I got home.
Now I gotta feed myself.
They also, for that specific client, they also did get a food voucher.
Yes.
So they'll give you some type of compensation because it's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
So know your rights before you just walk out and just be like, I'm gonna take this L.
But more importantly, ask.
Yes.
Because they may or may not tell you. They might just let you go fend for themselves.
Oh, they're going to let you go. That's what I'm like, don't.
And save their coin.
It's been times where I'm like, no, do not take that for an answer. Go back and talk to them. They owe you something. Like, you did absolutely nothing, and then you get the right person or you'll get the right answer. Because a lot of times, again, they're overwhelmed. So they're like, listen, I'm not trying to cash every single person on this airplane out. So if 80% of you just walk out without asking any questions, by all means.
Right.
And if I got to handle the other 20% because they're a little bit more well-knowledge and they listen to Travel Fly Sexy so they know.
Right, period.
Then we'll get them taken care of. But ideally, the airline does not want to take on an expense to compensate everyone. So they want you to just kind of go with the flow and just be like, I'll take the next flight. I'll go back home. Now, then you got to Uber home, Uber back to the airport. Child. Like, you're owed something.
The expenses is adding up real quick.
Like, give me all my money back.
Give me all of it. But speaking of the expenses, I think the last tip here for cancellations is, if you do incur expenses, try to use a travel credit card or a credit card that has those travel benefits when having to incur those expenses. Case in point, let's say the airline that you book is not giving out hotel vouchers, which honestly, shame on them. Double check that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That really should not be the case. But maybe the hotel that they are giving out is not up to your standard.
Yes,
that's and you're just like, I think I'm gonna go and book it on my own. Check the fine print on your travel credit card and book it on your travel credit card, because most of those travel credit cards do have trip protection. I always book my, rental cars using my Amex, because it has rental car insurance. I do not need to buy the rental car insurance from 𝗬𝗏𝗡 or Budget or whatever. It comes with it. And I had to use it before. And literally it was basically like the accident disappeared. Like all I had to do was submit the paperwork and Amex took care of the rest. But I say that to say you can submit those expenses to your travel credit card and they will reimburse you. Yeah, so just read the fine print, obviously, and make sure that that is listed. But most cases, those travel credit cards do have trip protection to protect you against these flights and delays and their inconveniences of incurring additional expenses.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you don't already have one, if travel is important to you, which it should be, that's why you're listening, get you a travel credit card. Yeah. Work toward whatever you need to do to get you a travel card. I know that I'm addicted to accumulating points and miles at this point. I'm like, I don't even want to, like, I don't spend money. Like, I just always, like, so get you a travel credit card. It'll benefit you in the long run from on this end, but also on the end of booking flights and, getting you out there.
Mm-hmm. Because that was another thing. I forgot to mention it, but when you do, I think this is on the tips, so I'll wait. But what I will say is, I had two separate flights with this American cancellation thing. So I was going to St. Martin on American, but I was returning to Philadelphia on Delta.
Right.
So I used money for the American flight, because I have this rule that if the flight is a certain amount, I'm not going to use points, because I'll save the points. But then the return flight, I used points. Luckily, I used points because my return flight was with a different carrier. What if I had just purchased a basic economy flight and all of this stuff happened with my departing flight?
I didn't even think about
Delta
that.
has nothing to do with American canceling my flight.
Absolutely.
So had I not used points, I could have and I booked a basic economy, which is a non-refundable, I could have been out of my money.
That return flight. I didn't even think about that.
Because
they're like, we don't care.
Didn't go on the trip.
Yeah.
So luckily, the return flight was on points, canceled it, full refund of the points, and full refund of the $79 taxes. But again.
Yeah, that could have been an L.
That could have been an L.
Delta, like, we don't got nothing to do with Americans.
So really be strategic when you're booking with points or when you're booking one-way tickets each way, because I know that's a thing, because sometimes you save money. I know, because that's why I did it. I saved money. But could have ended drastically because of a delay or cancellation.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah, so be mindful of that.
Oof, child, I was lucky. Speaking of tips, let's switch into some pro tips before we wrap it up.
Yes. Okay. So this is a good one, because I deal with this often with clients. So basically, if the airline changes your flight, it's not your fault.
Right.
So any changes that you are looking to make, they will make the alternative for you at whatever cost. Yeah. So, for instance, Frontier will email me if a client's flight is changed, and they'll send a link which will allow you to access the days that day and that week to just select whatever flight you want. Mm-hmm. Whatever works for you at no additional cost. You just literally go in. If you're flying out on Wednesday, they'll show you what's available later that day for that Wednesday, but they'll show you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not sure exactly how many days and you just are at free range to pick out those available flights to your destination within, I would say, a few days of your departure.
Right.
So it does not matter the cost. Sometimes you might come up and be like, oh, this was actually the flight I wanted to book, but I said I was trying to save a couple dollars.
That definitely be happening.
You know what? I wanted to go Wednesday night, not the morning, because I can't check in anyway.
Right.
So
that's facts.
You actually kind of, make those alternatives that can work for you in your favor. Yeah. So I like that. Because again, you didn't do anything. It's not your fault.
It's not.
So they will let you work to your advantage, most airlines.
For sure. And the same is true with cancellations. If a flight or an airline cancels your flight for any reason, the flight is canceled. It can't go. What are your options?
Yep.
Give me my money back. It doesn't matter if I booked a basic economy, a non-refundable. You took my flight and threw it in the trash. Give me my money back. And they will. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If they try to offer you a credit, you can absolutely rebut by saying, I prefer a full refund because my flight is no longer traveling.
Absolutely.
And they have to honor that, regardless of what kind of ticket you booked.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, credit is more of a, like, cancellation, refund. Credit,
give me my money.
If I can move it around.
Yeah.
Money if I can't.
Physical cash dollars.
Yeah, like credit if I can play with it. Okay, I'll take a little voucher because you messed up. Yeah. But I need my coin back if you telling me I'm not going nowhere.
Anywhere. Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, absolutely not. This next one is a very good one because we all know the airlines customer service lines get crazy. And that's why we're going to say it again. Download the app.
Please.
Have the app.
Please.
That way, if you do have those live service agents within the app, sometimes you get a quicker response depending on the airline.
You get a quicker
response versus calling and
waiting on hold.
Being on hold. If this happened, you have to understand this happened to hundreds of people
at the same time. It's happening
especially
to you.
Around the time when your flight was canceled, because a lot of flights were being canceled. There was storms happening on the East Coast. There, like, again, we're entering that hurricane season. It was just weather, plane. It was a lot. So you have to understand there are hundreds of people who are also facing this problem, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And they don't got the app because apparently no one wants to use the app. So everybody's going old school and calling.
Y'all weird. I'm calling y'all weird. Like, y'all weird.
It's like we got apps for everything, but y'all don't want to be on the airline app.
Ciao.
But yeah, the customer service lines get packed. So you do have the option to call international lines because they can access that information for you. So that's a hack. If you want to check out the airline's website, go to an international customer service line, give them a call, and then let them know the situation, and they're able to hone in on the details and make any resolvements.
Now, don't be going trying to charge Travel Far Sexy for any of your international.
Oh yeah, you're going to have international.
Because we don't know what your phone plan is.
I don't know where you at or what your plan is. You might know. You might be out the country trying to call what.
We're just telling you the hack that work.
It does work.
We're responsible for your extra fees.
Yes.
Okay.
You may have to take on a few extra fees, but if you were trying to get home, you're trying to figure it out. Pay that little $5 or whatever to Sprint or get home and get home. But that's a great hack because those lines get busy. Like, you can be on hold for hours on a regular day.
I personally almost always use the chat.
Yeah, same.
And I use the chat all 4 times that I had to communicate about these changes that ultimately became cancellations trying to get to St. Martin. But the chat was more effective both for my time and for the ability to resolve.
Yeah, for the actual resolution.
Yes.
It came through the chat versus
the phone. It came
phone.
through the chat. My refund came through the chat. Everything happened through the chat. And the chat was literally just like I'm texting a friend. Like, it's just text. You're going to do that anyway. And it's also on your time. You know, I'm cooking dinner and, you back and forth with the text. That's fine. Instead of when you call in, it's like, we'll call you back in 2.5 hours. By that point, you over it, and you got wait in the bed.
Everybody don't have that callback option. Like, I know we get spoiled with technology, and they're like, "Oh, you're such and such in line." Everybody's not going to guarantee to call you back, and sometimes you do sign up for that callback and be waiting and don't get a callback.
Child,
like you in the queue, and it's like, are they still?
Yeah.
Am I still on the list? You don't know until you know.
So try the international line for your airline, or
use the app.
Use the app and do the chat for sure.
Definitely use
I'd do the chat first and then try the international line. The other next tip would be consider flying into a different airport.
Yes.
If you can find a flight out, again, if it's canceled, if the original flight is canceled or delayed, and you find a flight that's going into a nearby airport, ask them about that, okay? I will use my own self as an example. I was flying back from Cabo at the beginning of the year. Number one, shout out to United because they gave me the notification of delay first while we were still at the resort. So we were able to still just hang out at the resort and still get the vacation a little bit longer. And then we finally get to the airport and it's delayed a little bit more. So at that point, now I'm missing my connection.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed I'm missing the connection because if you know anything about East Coast to Cabo, most of the flights have a connection.
Gotta go to the West Coast.
Yeah, we go into the West Coast. We're not really getting a bunch of nonstops.
Yeah.
So I was going to miss my connection, which meant I'm not getting back to Philadelphia tonight.
Right.
I was like, yeah, that's not really an option because at that point I had been traveling for 2 whole weeks.
I'm tired.
I came from El Salvador, or not El Salvador. I don't remember. I came from.
I don't remember. It's crazy. I don't know.
Ecuador. Came home from Ecuador, had 2 days in Philadelphia. One of those days was New Year's Eve, had a New Year's Eve party, and got to the airport at 6 a.m. on New Year's Day, basically straight from the party to Cabo. So anyway, I was tired.
And Cabo looked lit. So I know it was like it wasn't like a relaxation.
It was great. It was great. But nevertheless, I was like, I can't get home. Wasn't an option. So instead, I was like, what else you got?
Right.
So I ended up getting on the flight that was going to take me to Newark. And if y'all know me, y'all know I love me some Newark, New Jersey.
It's around the corner.
It's around the corner. It's an hour and a half from Philly, but it was going to get me there. And then, get the ride back and still get home that day. So again, if you can, consider the airports that are near you.
Yep.
And see if your flight can be rerouted to that because the flight to your actual destination is not going according to plan.
Yeah, especially if you're somewhere obviously we're here in Philly, so we have Newark, we have JFK.
We definitely are spoiled.
We have Baltimore, BWI, DCA.
And even DCA, yeah.
So we have a bunch of options, so we're lucky. But even if you're somewhere like in Florida where you can maybe do a MCO or a Fort Lauderdale, Miami situation.
Like PMI, Palm Beach.
Yeah, so
PBI.
I think that, depending where you are, you should have options around you to kind of... And most people fly out of, those major cities. So even if it's not taking you directly home, you can get closer to home.
Right? And then figure it out from there.
Exactly.
Better being there than abroad and trying to figure it out over there.
Exactly. Okay, last but not least, number 5, because I be telling my clients all the time. They just be like, it's okay. It's not okay. Do not take that first offer. Mm-mm. They're going to give you the bare minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
guaranteed.
Get what you deserve. Know your rights. Like, we can't say it enough. Know your rights.
Yeah.
Again, that app, that website is great because you can just kind of like divvy through and say, okay, this is what they can offer. Yeah. But even still, don't take just that as an answer. Yeah. You might probably get a little bit more.
Double check. Like, y'all got me sitting here.
Yeah.
What can you do for me?
So understand what your rights are and get your full offer, and whether it's an airline credit on top of a reschedule, whether it's a full refund, and some sort of hotel accommodation because you are still away from home. Just know what your rights are when it comes to lodging, your money back, credits, and just getting what's owed to you after these inconveniences. Because again, it's not your fault.
Yeah, because I'm definitely going to be like, okay, so we rescheduled my flight. What else you got? I want a voucher. I want some miles. I want a
free sandwich when I get on this flight.
I want the bang for my entire buck because y'all got it and y'all good for it.
Yes, and they got it. They got it.
Y'all be fine.
And again, like we said, 80% of the passengers are going to just walk away. Yeah. Maybe 90 are just going to walk away, take what they get. So be within that 10 to 20% and get what's owed to you because they... Rightfully so, but they also are not accommodating everyone because the average person, the average person isn't asking for it. Yeah. So, ask for what you deserve because it is not your fault that your flight was delayed or canceled.
Big facts. So with that being said, we're switching it up this week instead of doing our favorite thing.
Yeah.
Because...
not that good.
So instead, we're doing our favorite airline that we feel handles delays and or cancellations well. because well is very relative, but decent compared to others. I will start.
Yeah.
And I think my answer is probably most people's answer, but Delta.
Okay.
I just feel like they understand the customer experience and they value the customer experience. And when changes and delays occur, it almost feels personal to them.
Yeah.
Like, obviously factors are outside of their control, and in lots of cases you have maintenance, you have weather, you have sometimes just the team times out because delays happen somewhere else, so now they can't fly because they've timed out. That's a thing. And it just be really feeling like it's a little personal for them. So I think that they do a great job in just making the customer feel valued and not like, well, what you want me to do? Like, because I can't stand on what you want me to do per se.
Yes.
Like, what you mean? What you want me to? I want you to make a miracle happen. How about that? Since we're asking, since I get my request. So I appreciate Delta.
So I was going to say American, but after this experience, I have to change my answer. So if you're not already following 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 and Tosh and I on Instagram and TikTok, please do, because she shared a great story time on TikTok about this full experience and how American handled it. So that's personally why I'm changing my answer. No shade, American. But I'm actually going to say Play Airlines, which I've mentioned episodes before. And the reason I say that is because they are a newer airline, and I had a client stuck in Paris. It was terrible weather in Iceland. That's where they laid over. There were storms. They weren't going to be able to get in or out of Iceland for about 2 to 3 days.
Oh, wow.
It was quite drastic.
Yikes.
And they handled it so well. They handled the lodging. They handled the food credit. They handled the reschedule very well. The communication was great. The follow-up process to make sure that the funds was returned to the card for the recompensation for the lodging and everything was done very well.
That's awesome.
And the crazy part is Play doesn't even have an app.
Yeah,
they
they're
are
so
such
new.
a new airline, and we've been talking about download the app. Download the app. They don't have an app, so they did this so efficiently via email.
Wow.
And via their website that I was just like, wow. Like, there was so much urgency, and the emails coming out so quickly, and I felt like I was speaking with people directly. The client felt like he was handled well. I mean, it was what it was. He enjoyed his few days in Paris and was fully compensated. It was not an issue where I'm like, oh my God, I feel terrible. Because at first I'm like, dang, but as it played out, he was fine. I was fine. They were great. So definitely I would say Play Airlines. They killed that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they killed that. No app.
They killed that with no app.
No app.
With no app. I love it. Well, I will say the moral of the story is a couple things. The biggest moral of the story, if you haven't kind of gathered, is just book with a travel agent, because clearly Jasmine had multiple stories of which she had to handle her clients' delays and cancellation issues and was able to navigate it on their behalf. But if you don't, these tips and tricks will hopefully set you up for success. So I would say the second moral of the story is to know your rights.
Yes.
If nothing else, understand what is owed to you, what you are entitled to, and what airlines will give you what based on how they are inconveniencing your life that day.
Absolutely. And last but not least, download the app.
Yes, child.
That's the final moral of the story.
That's the final one.
Okay, let's get into our daily segment.
Yes, because we keep talking about delays and cancellations. I'm gonna be ready to fight.
Yeah, and y'all not gonna want to fly. So these are tips, but do not take this is the average. Like, it happens inevitably, but it's not a frequent thing.
But pack your patience.
Yeah, exactly.
I say pack your patience.
Manage your expectations.
And manage your expectations. And be prepared. But nevertheless, it's time for the travel agent. Because if you don't know, guys. Jasmine and I are both a part of Travel Goddess International, which is a full-service travel agency that can assist with bringing your next unforgettable vacation experiences to life, right? So if you're looking to go somewhere and you also are not looking to deal with delays and cancellations on your own, please, please, please allow us to assist with bringing your vacations to life.
Period.
So with that being said, we be outside because we travel and we're travel agents, but we want you to be outside. So this week's travel deal of the week is a 4-day, 3-night trip to London.
Great, John.
Great, John. And it is a Friday to Monday, y'all. Like you leave Thursday night, you arrive on Friday morning. You get the whole weekend in London. So there's that, all right? This is going to be in early November. I think it was like the first weekend of November. The flights are with Icelandair, which is a very reputable company. I have flown them personally. They are fantastic. And it is with an hour and a half layover both ways, which is nothing.
That's nothing.
Nothing. The flights are leaving out of BWI, which is Baltimore, Maryland. And the hotel accommodations are 4-star DoubleTree Greenwich, which is a fan-freaking-tastic neighborhood in London that I personally love, and I can't wait to go back and hang out. All of that for $860 a person, y'all.
Come on. I might book this.
$860 a person.
Actually.
My good. First of all, that neighborhood alone is so good.
And we love a familiar hotel. So DoubleTree is something that, you know, everybody's like, you recognize the name. You know that the service is going to be there.
You know that you'll have a washcloth.
Yeah. You're going to have a washcloth.
If you know, you know.
You're going to have a washcloth there, for sure.
Because it's under the Hilton brand. You're going to have a washcloth. But nevertheless, an excellent price for a weekend in London.
Absolutely.
Like, again, you will see round trip air only.
At that price.
To London.
Higher than that.
Yeah. It can get higher for sure, depending on the time of the year. Absolutely.
Well, less than $1,000 to go to Europe.
For the weekend.
Come on. You don't even got to take off of work.
Yeah, right? You good. Miley, you good.
Yeah, so that's a great joint. So we will post a link for that in the notes. But again, like Tosh said, if y'all want us to help you plan something that's not London, just hit us up.
But they do have fantastic brunches in London.
Yeah, a little crimpet and tea.
Not the crimpet and the tea. I'm not doing that. But they got the full-blown, real brunch experiences in London. So with that being said, it's time to get brunchy.
Y'all already know. So this week's brunch abroad is not as bougie as a London vibe. It's more of a turn up vibe. So I know in our last episode we talked about Houston briefly. This is a brunch in Houston. Now I know I talked about camp before.
Yeah.
This is another super lit. Every brunch in Houston is lit, y'all. Like, every single one.
And that's on period.
That's on, like, it's turned. That's on, you gotta take a nap after. You can't do nothing. You done. Nap. Seaside Lounge. Seaside Lounge.
Oh, yes.
In Houston is a vibe.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I didn't know you went there.
Yes,
yep.
A vibe, y'all. Like, we're talking brunch party turns into day party. If you want to stay for the night.
Yeah.
You can stay.
Yeah.
That's the thing about Houston. A lot of those spots will have super lit brunch and then it'll transition to a day party.
Absolutely.
And then the day party will transition into their night and then like you're in a club.
And they got sections and they got this and that.
Exactly.
It's a whole thing.
Exactly. So Seaside Lounge for sure is a good brunch. You been there?
Yes. Yeah. It's a great brunch.
Great
it's a great all day thing.
Yeah. No matter what time.
No matter what time.
It's super lit. What I loved about them was they had mimosa pitchers. And I believe it was a bottomless option. But they had mimosas that had liquor in it. So I was really into like the Casamigos mimosa. Yeah. So
we need to go to Houston. Houston, we got
Houston gonna be on the list. Houston coming up.
Houston is coming up. Absolutely. And make sure y'all grab Jasmine's new Houston itinerary.
Yeah.
We will drop it in the show notes as well. She literally plans the whole thing for you.
Yes.
So,
if Houston's on your list, grab the itinerary. And Seaside Lounge is in there.
It is in there with all the ways to experience it correctly. All right. Last but not least, question of the day. And this one was so random. I was just
this one was a good one.
I was so wondering. I just was wondering. I was like, I wonder what she would do.
Bougie question of the day.
So, question of the day, Jazz. if you're traveling in Europe, Europe specifically, because we know we got our VAT taxes.
Yes, that VAT tax. That's it.
That's why this is the question.
Yes, the girls that know.
So if you're traveling in Europe, would you choose unlimited designer purchases or unlimited experiences?
That is tough.
I know.
Like, that is so tough. And just coming off of that travel deal.
Right, I know.
It's like, dang, I want both. And at that price for the travel deal, it's like you kind of can get both. I would say the designer purchases simply because I have not immersed myself into that. Like when I went to Italy, I did a little shopping. But I just want to go like fully all out.
Just ball to she
And
fall.
I've done the European experiences and they're great, you know, like from the cultural to historical to like, you know, like fine dining.
Yes.
But it's nothing like that luxury shopping experience
we
in
just
store.
was talking about that too.
Yes, in store. And like, you know, like, and then the VAT tax. You know,
the VAT tax.
Just go crazy. And I might check a bag. I might check a bag after that.
You should. I think you should. Now, I will say, be careful if you do plan to redeem your VAT tax. You can't store those items in your luggage.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
you have to have them physically to present them with your receipt.
I did not know that.
A
See,
lot
that's how
of
y'all
people
know I haven't did it yet.
know that. That's why you listen to this show or watch this show, guys. We be knowing. But you have to present all of the items in which you're looking to claim.
Wow, so I can't go too crazy.
Yeah. Or you just keep coming back. I don't know.
That's good to know.
I'm choosing the experiences.
Okay.
Send me off to Capri. I want to glide down the. I want it all. I want every single experience that I can fit into my day without falling asleep on it. I want all the experiences. Without question, because I just continue to see just different ways to immerse myself in Europe and. Whether it be Italy, whether it be Spain, like I can go to Italy and I can travel down the Amalfi Coast. I can head over to Spain and do a night or two in Ibiza. Then I can head off to Iceland and hang out at the Blue Lagoon. Like I want all the experiences.
Yes, everything.
I want it all. Give it all
dope.
to me.
That's so dope.
Yes.
Well, let us know which you guys would choose,
Absolutely.
whether unlimited designer purchases or unlimited European experiences.
Experiences for me. With that being said, I think that's our episode.
Yes. That has been episode 11.
Yeah, man. Just again, guys, please know your rights. I know this episode might have stressed you out because I'm still stressed from it. Jasmine's still residually stressed from my stress. But nevertheless, we're here and we're here to tell you how to minimize your stress.
Yes, exactly.
And of course, please like, subscribe, and share the episode. We appreciate that.
Yes. And feel free to email us if you have any topic suggestions, any questions, or any goddess mail you want us to touch base on at info@𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪𝗏𝗪sexy.com.
Absolutely. And last but not least, please leave us a review. We love to hear your feedback. We've been getting some great feedback and it honestly keeps us going. It validates what we're doing and we love it already. So thank you so much for that. But tell us more. We want to hear from you.
Exactly.
I think that's all.
Yes. Thanks for tuning in, y'all.
All right. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.